What if you could stop a spiral of anxious thoughts in its tracks? That feeling of your mind replaying every mistake, worrying about a future that hasn't happened. What if you could quiet that noise in under 5 minutes? Thousands of years ago, the Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca grappled with these same feelings. From his insights, we can build a mental exercise so powerful it can silence the chaos and help you reclaim your mind. As we believe here in New Acropolis, this isn't just a philosophy lesson, it's a practical guide built on ancient wisdom. Stick with me, and I'll show you exactly how it works. We live in an age of anxiety. Our minds, for all their brilliance, can become our own personal tormentors. They're relentless, replaying conversations from last week, catastrophizing about a meeting next month, and second-guessing decisions from a year ago. This constant mental chatter, this loop of what-ifs and should-haves, is what we now call overthinking. It's a silent thief that steals our peace, drains our energy, and paralyzes us. It feels like a uniquely modern problem, a side effect of our hyper-connected world, but it's not. 2,000 years ago, in the heart of the Roman Empire, a man named Lucius Annaeus Seneca faced a life of such extreme volatility it makes our modern stresses seem trivial. He was a philosopher, a playwright, an immensely wealthy man, and the personal advisor to the dangerously unstable Emperor Nero. He faced political exile, constant threats of violence, and the daily pressure of navigating a world of absolute power and deadly intrigue. His life was a masterclass in uncertainty. Out of this chaos, Seneca forged a set of mental tools so durable they've survived for 2 millennia. He developed a practical philosophy not for dusty libraries, but for what we might call the battlefield of the mind, an approach we strive to revive at New Acropolis. He understood that our greatest struggles are often not with others, but with our own thoughts. Today, we're going to unpack a method inspired by his wisdom. This is a concrete, 4-step process you can use anytime to halt an overthinking spiral. It's an emergency drill for the anxious mind, a technique that can ground you in reality and restore your calm. So, if you've ever felt like a prisoner in your own head, get ready. We're about to explore the key.
The Philosopher in the Fire, Why Seneca's Advice is Forged in Reality.
Before we get to the method itself, it's worth understanding the man whose ideas inspired it. Seneca wasn't a philosopher in an ivory tower, he was in the arena. His philosophy was a tool for survival. Born in Spain around 4 BC, Seneca rose through the ranks of Rome's political and intellectual elite, but his life was anything but smooth. Early in his career, one ancient account suggests he so angered Emperor Caligula that he was nearly ordered to take his own life, surviving only because Caligula was told the sickly Seneca would die soon anyway. Later, under Emperor Claudius, he was accused of adultery and exiled to the barren island of Corsica for 8 long years. Imagine being a celebrated figure in the world's greatest city, then suddenly being stripped of everything and sent to a remote rock in the sea. This would break most people. For Seneca, it became a laboratory. In exile, he refined his Stoic practice, focusing not on what was taken from him, but on the one thing no emperor could touch, his own mind. His fortunes turned when he was recalled to Rome to tutor the future emperor, Nero. For a time, Seneca was one of the most powerful men in the world, guiding the Roman Empire, but this was like trying to tame a tiger. As Nero grew older, his paranoia and cruelty escalated. Seneca was living on a knife's edge, trying to moderate a tyrant while knowing one wrong move could mean a gruesome death. He was surrounded by power, yet lived under a perpetual threat. This is the context from which his wisdom emerges. When Seneca writes about fear, he's not talking about abstract anxieties. He's talking about the very real fear of assassination. When he writes about controlling one's mind, he's talking about the discipline needed to stay rational while the world around you descends into madness. He eventually tried to retire, but his connection to the court was inescapable. In the end, he was accused of being part of a conspiracy to kill Nero and was ordered to take his own life. According to the historian Tacitus, he faced his end with the philosophical calm he had preached his entire life. Why does this matter? Because it proves this philosophy isn't theoretical. It's been pressure tested in the most extreme circumstances. Seneca understood that external events are fundamentally unpredictable. You can be a powerful statesman one day and an impoverished exile the next. The only true source of strength is a well-ordered mind. His entire philosophy is built on this bedrock principle. We can't always control what happens to us, but we can always control how we respond. This is the heart of Stoicism and the foundation of the method we are about to learn.
The core principle: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality.
At the center of this entire approach to overthinking is a single transformative idea from Seneca. In a letter to his friend Lucilius, he wrote, "There are more things likely to frighten us than there are to crush us. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Let's break that down, because getting this is the key to the whole method. Seneca is identifying two kinds of suffering. First, there's suffering in reality. This is the pain of a broken leg, or the grief of losing a loved one. This suffering is real and objective. But then there's the second kind, suffering in imagination. This is the domain of overthinking. It's the anxiety about a presentation next week. It's the regret you chew on from a mistake last year. It's the fear of losing your job or the dread of a difficult conversation. This suffering, Seneca argues, is where we spend most of our lives. And crucially, it is largely self-inflicted. Your mind can act like a movie projector, but instead of playing the film of what is happening right now, it creates horror films about the future and documentaries of past failures. It takes a small, neutral fact. I have a performance review tomorrow, and builds a disaster narrative around it. My boss will bring up that mistake from 6 months ago. She thinks I'm incompetent. This is the end of my career. None of this has happened. It is pure fiction. Yet your body reacts as if it were real. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your stomach churns. You are experiencing the pain of a catastrophe that exists only in your imagination. You are, in Seneca's words, suffering from a phantom. This is the tyranny of overthinking. It forces you to live in a state of pre-suffering. As Seneca advised, what I advise you to do is not to be unhappy before the crisis comes. Why? Because the dangers you dread may never arrive, and you've effectively doubled your trouble for no reason. Recognizing this distinction is the first moment of liberation. It's realizing that most of your mental anguish isn't caused by your life, but by the stories you tell yourself about your life. Here in New Acropolis, we see this as a pivotal step towards self-mastery. The chaos isn't external, it's internal. The noise isn't coming from the world, it's coming from the projector in your mind. The 4-step method we're about to explore is a modern way to apply this ancient insight. It's a practical exercise designed to do one thing: turn off that projector. It pulls you out of the imagined future or the remembered past and grounds you firmly in the present moment, where you have real power.
Step 1. The Great Separation. Fact versus story.
The first step is the most critical. To stop suffering in imagination, you must clearly separate the stories in your mind from the facts of reality. Overthinking thrives on the vague and undefined. The moment you make it concrete, it starts to lose its power. The action is simple. Get the thought out of your head and onto paper or a screen. The act of writing is crucial. It externalizes the worry, changing it from a terrifying ghost in your mind into words you can observe objectively. Now create 2 columns. On the left, write facts. On the right, write my story. This simple framework helps you dissect the chaos. Let's use a common example. You sent an important email to your boss hours ago and haven't heard back. Your mind is starting to spiral. Under the facts column, write only what is objectively, verifiably true. Things a security camera would have recorded. I sent an email at 2 p.m. with the quarterly report. It is now 5 p.m. I have not received a reply. That's it. Those are the facts. Notice how plain and unthreatening they are. Now move to the right-hand column, my story. Here, you dump out all the noise. The assumptions, the catastrophic predictions. Be brutally honest. My boss is ignoring me. She must have found a huge mistake in the report. She's angry with me. She's probably talking to HR about my poor performance. I'm definitely not getting that promotion. I'm going to get fired. Look at the two columns. The left is reality. The right is imagination. This exercise forces you to see the huge gap between what is actually happening and the narrative you've built around it. The stories, which felt so real in your head, now look almost absurd next to the stark simplicity of the facts. This is a practical application of a Stoic practice known as Assent. The Stoics taught that your first impression, that flash of fear, "Oh no, she's mad," is often involuntary. What you can control is whether you assent to it, whether you agree with it and accept it as truth. Overthinking is automatically assenting to every negative thought. This exercise is the act of pausing and choosing not to. You are looking at the fearful thought and saying, "I see you, but you are a story, not a fact." This first step alone can often be enough to break the spell. By seeing your fears laid bare as mere interpretations, you rob them of their authority. You realize you've been tormenting yourself with a work of fiction. This isn't about pretending the fears don't exist. It's about correctly labeling them. They are not reality. They are just thoughts.
Step 2. The anchor of control. What I can versus cannot control.
Once you've separated facts from stories, the next step is to filter those thoughts through a powerful Stoic tool, the dichotomy of control. While most famously articulated by the Stoic teacher Epictetus, this principle is deeply consistent with Seneca's philosophy. The idea is simple. In any situation, some things are within our control, and some are not. The secret to peace is to focus all your energy on what you can control and practice acceptance of what you cannot. Overthinking is almost always obsessing over things you can't control. What others think, whether it will rain, how your boss will react. You have no more power over someone else's thoughts than you do over the rising of the sun. To waste mental energy on it is, from a Stoic perspective, a form of insanity. So, for step 2, take your list and perform another simple action. Circle only the things that are directly and immediately within your control. Let's go back to the unanswered email example. Facts. I sent an email at 2 p.m. Not in your control, it's in the past. The email contained the quarterly report. Past. It is now 5 p.m. Not in your control. I have not received a reply. Not in your control. My story. My boss is ignoring me. Not in your control. You don't control her actions. She must have found a huge mistake. Not in your control. You don't control her thoughts. She's angry with me. Not in your control. You don't control her emotions. I'm going to get fired. Not in your control. A future outcome. You'll have a shocking realization. Almost nothing on the page is within your control. The entire anxiety spiral is fueled by things you have zero power over. So what can you circle? What is actually in your control right now? My choice to focus on my next task. My ability to breathe deeply and calm my body. My decision to trust that I did good work. My plan to respond calmly and professionally if there's an issue. Notice the shift. Control is never about the outcome. It's always about your own actions and state of mind. You can't control if your boss replies, but you can control whether you spend the next hour staring at your inbox in a panic or move on to productive work. Seneca used the analogy of an archer. The archer controls their stance, breath, and aim. But the moment the arrow is released, it's out of their control. A gust of wind might blow it off course. The archer's job is to focus perfectly on their part and accept the outcome. To run after the arrow screaming at the wind is futile. That's what we do when we overthink. After circling the few things you can control, take your pen and satisfyingly cross out everything else. This is a ritual of release. You are consciously deciding to let go of burdens that aren't yours to carry. You are saying, "This is not my business is what I do next." What's left on the page is your roadmap back to peace. We've just covered 2 powerful steps inspired by ancient wisdom. If you're already feeling a bit of that clarity, you're experiencing the power of applied philosophy. This is the essence of what we do at New Acropolis. We are a school of philosophy in the classical tradition, with dozens of branches across the US and around the world, dedicated to living our ideals. If this approach resonates with you, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, and more importantly, to look for a New Acropolis center near you to continue this journey in a community of fellow seekers. Now, let's get to the crucial 3rd step, the one that turns insight into action.
Step 3. The cure for paralysis. Small, immediate action.
Overthinking is a state of paralysis. You get so caught up in the loop of worry that you become frozen. The more you think, the less you do. And the less you do, the bigger the problem seems. It's a vicious cycle. The Stoics knew the antidote to anxious thought is not more thought, it's action. Specifically, small, immediate, and decisive action. Step 3 is where we turn insight into momentum. You've separated fact from fiction. You've identified what you can control. Now, you must choose one of those things and act on it, immediately. The key here is the scale of the action. It must be laughably small. So easy your anxious mind doesn't have a chance to object. Look at your circled list from step 2. From that list, identify the smallest possible action you can take in the next 5 minutes that moves you 1 inch in a positive direction. Let's go back to the presentation anxiety example. The big action is prepare for the presentation. That's too daunting. The small, immediate actions could be open a new document and type the title. Find one interesting statistic for the introduction. Set a timer for 10 minutes and just brainstorm bullet points. See the difference? These actions are so small, they're almost impossible not to do. But their effect is huge. The moment you take one, you've broken the spell of passivity. You've sent a powerful signal to your brain. I am not helpless. I am in motion. I am in control. Action works like a circuit breaker. Your mind can't simultaneously engage in focused activity and spin in anxious fantasy. By choosing action, you are forcibly changing the channel from the worry network to the execution network. Let's apply this to a difficult conversation you need to have. The overwhelming action is have the conversation. The small, immediate action is write down the single most important sentence you want to communicate. Send a text. Hey, can we chat for a few minutes when you have time this week? Practice your opening line in the mirror. This principle holds for any worry. Worried about your health? The small action isn't get healthy. It's drink 1 glass of water right now. Worried about your finances? The small action isn't get out of debt. It's look up 1 free budgeting app. Seneca believed idleness and indecision are breeding grounds for fear. When we are still, our minds create monsters. But when we are in motion, our focus shifts to the real, manageable task at hand. This step is about creating a tiny victory that builds momentum for the next one. It's how you escape the quicksand of overthinking, 1 small steady step at a time.
Step 4. The Antifragile Mind. Proactive training.
The first 3 steps are your emergency response. They pull you out of an active overthinking spiral. This 4th step is different. It's not a rescue, it's a training exercise. It's what you do when you are calm to build the mental muscle so future anxieties have less power. This is how you go from coping with overthinking to becoming anti-fragile, a person who grows stronger from shocks. This is a central goal of the philosophical path, as we study it here in New Acropolis. This step combines 2 related Stoic practices that Seneca championed: Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of adversities, and the practice of voluntary discomfort. Let's start with Premeditatio Malorum. It sounds grim, but it's the opposite of anxious worrying. Worrying is vague and emotional. Premeditation is a specific, rational rehearsal of potential negative outcomes. Here's how it works. In a calm moment, you deliberately consider a worst-case scenario. You don't dwell on it emotionally. Instead, you look at it squarely and ask, how would I actually cope if this happened? What could I do now to lessen its impact? Take the fear of being fired. The overthinking mind just replays the horror. The Stoic mind says, okay, what if I was fired? What would I do? Well, I'd feel embarrassed and scared. Acknowledge that. Then what? I'd update my resume, reach out to my network, create a tight budget. It would be incredibly difficult, but would it be the end of my life? No. I would survive. By walking through the potential disaster calmly, you rob it of its terrifying power. As Seneca wrote, the man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. You've removed the element of shock, which is often the most debilitating part of a crisis. The second part is voluntary discomfort. Seneca, despite his immense wealth, would regularly practice poverty. He'd wear rough clothes and eat basic food, asking himself, is this the condition that I feared? He wasn't punishing himself, he was training. He realized he could not only survive, but be content with less, breaking the fear's hold over him.
We can apply this in our modern lives.
Take a cold shower to prove you can handle physical discomfort. Intentionally leave your phone in another room for an evening. Fast for a morning to show yourself that missing a meal isn't a catastrophe. These small acts of self-deprivation build psychological strength. Each time you willingly embrace a minor hardship, you're telling your subconscious, I can handle this. I am tougher than I think. This builds an immunity to the fears that fuel overthinking. The fear of hardship shrinks when you've practiced it.
This fourth step is the long-term strategy. The first 3 steps are about escaping the storm. This step is about building a ship so strong that the storms no longer seem so threatening.
We've journeyed back 2,000 years to find a timeless approach to a modern ailment. We've learned that the chaos of overthinking isn't inevitable, but a mental habit we can change, using a powerful framework built from the wisdom of Seneca. Let's recap the method one last time. Step 1. The Great Separation. Get the worry onto paper. Draw 2 columns, facts and my story. See the gap between reality and your imagination. Step 2. The Anchor of Control. Look at your list and circle only what is directly within your control. Cross out everything else. Release the burden of the uncontrollable. Step 3. The Cure for Paralysis. From your circled items, choose the smallest possible action you can take right now and do it. Create momentum. Step 4. The Antifragile Mind. This is your training. When calm, practice premeditating worst-case scenarios and embrace small, voluntary discomforts to build your immunity to fear. The next time you feel that familiar spiral begin, I challenge you to try this. Start a timer, 5 minutes. Step 1. Write it down.
Step 2. Circle what you control.
Step 3. Pick one tiny action and do it.
That's it. That is the rescue mission, inspired by 2,000 years of wisdom. It is a lifeline back to the present moment, back to reality, and back to your own power.
You now have a tool tested by time itself. It's not magic, it's a discipline. As we learn at New Acropolis, a school of philosophy with branches across the country, it's a practice and a way of reclaiming the peace that is rightfully yours. If you found value in this guide, subscribe for more practical wisdom. And if you wish to deepen this practice in a community, we encourage you to look for a New Acropolis center near you. And now, I want you to make a commitment. Go to the comments and write this affirmation. I control my mind. Let's fill the comments with this declaration. Here in New Acropolis, we believe that fraternity and shared purpose are powerful forces for change. Let this be a reminder to you, and an inspiration to others, that we are not the victims of our thoughts, but the masters of our judgments. Let's build a community dedicated to strength, clarity, and inner peace. Thank you for watching. Choose calm. Choose strength. And I'll see you in the next video.